Hello, everybody. Welcome back to DLC. My name is Connor, and today we are back with my next downloadable cast, the podcast I like to call that. And today we are going to be discussing a wide variety of topics, and I promise that this podcast is going to be much shorter than the last one. The last one was a trial run, definitely still figuring out the format, still figuring out what I should talk about, what I should, how much time I should spend on certain things, everything like that. So basically, we have a decent amount to talk about today, and I wanted to go into a whole bunch of different news things that have been happening lately, current events, and so we're just gonna hop right into it. So first, let me say hello. Hello, Voss. Thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. We are going to be talking about a couple things today. One of the main topics we're going to be talking about, some of the main topics are going to be Falcon and Winter Soldier, Episode 1. And then Zack Snyder's Justice League, his 4-hour long movie. and just, my thoughts and opinions on that. And then to wrap up, we'll finish with some industry news, some geek industry news in regards to Microsoft and Bethesda, as well as a little bit of discussion on Avatar Studios. So I'm very excited, and we're going to jump right on into it. So, that in mind, there are going to be spoilers ahead for the variety of topics we're going to be discussing today. Because it's spoilers. We're going to be talking about the episode, we're going to be talking about the movie with all the new things, etc. So, you have been warned. There is a spoiler warning in the stream, and just so everyone knows that we're going to be talking spoilers, and we'll go in from topic to topic, and we'll make sure that there's enough time between each topic to make sure that everyone knows what we're doing. So, and with that in mind, we will get into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So, all right. So here we are. Marvel has just finished WandaVision, and now everyone was like, okay, what the heck's Marvel gonna do now? So obviously we all knew that Falcon and Winter Soldier was coming, but after the, I guess, cultural phenomenon that was WandaVision, everyone's like, all right, so how are they gonna maybe take this a step further, or how are they gonna continue the story, or how are they gonna how are they gonna match the level that WandaVision was? And it seems like even after one episode, Falcon and Winter Soldier is kind of doing what it needs to do. It's going to be a shorter series. It's only 6 episodes, but the episodes are longer because they're not sitcom style. And they're going to be more they're more action heavy, of course. They're lots of character development, and through the relationship of Sam and Bucky, learning about the new world we're in post Endgame, and more stuff like that. So before we get really, really into it, one, of course, final warning. This is a massive spoiler warning for the content of Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 1. I don't remember the title of the episode, but regardless. So if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend you go watch it. It's not like there's massive spoilers. There's a pretty big spoiler at the end of the episode, but I highly recommend you go watch the series first episode before you listen to the podcast. But if you don't really care, that's totally fine, and you're just here to listen, that's totally fine too. So, that in mind, episode 1 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You are welcome to discuss your thoughts with me, and I will address the chat or the comments as people, talk to me. Not necessarily as I see them, but after I finish a point that was when I will be able to discuss. I can take some questions if you guys would want, or you could just give me your opinions and stuff like that, and I can discuss those here as well. So on with Falcon and Winter Soldier, episode 1. So we start off with I almost thought that the beginning of this show was going to be the funeral for Steve Rogers, but they kind of pulled a fast one on us because it looked like Sam was getting all dressed up for he was getting all black suit, black tie, getting all dressed up for a funeral, but no, he was actually just getting dressed up for a ceremony where he was going to hand off the shield of Captain America and use that and give the shield essentially to a museum, the Captain America Museum, I guess. And he's not going to become the new Captain America, or at least that's as far as we know. We know he's going to basically become the new Captain America, but for now he has given up the shield because he doesn't think he is worthy of holding the shield. So, and, with that in mind, we start learning more about Sam's life post-Endgame, where he's working with the Air Force and conducting missions, and, I cannot remember the one guy's name. Something Torres, I think is his last name, but he's another Air Force officer who he's working with, or Army officer, wherever you want to, military person he's working with, who is actually from the comics as well, and is another person who takes up the Falcon mantle after Sam gives up the Falcon mantle temporarily to become Captain America. And I believe that's right. If I'm wrong, you can feel free to bombard me in the comments, but it's just from what I can immediately remember. I might be mixing up some of the details. Regardless, it's pretty cool. The show's starting off a little bit slow, but it's still interesting enough that, obviously it's going to keep your attention. There's a lot of details that they need to build. They're what's Sam doing? What's Bucky doing? Give us a little taste of the villains and what the story arc is going to be like. This show is only going to be 6 episodes, so they've got a lot to do in 6 episodes, but I believe that they can easily tell a very cohesive and awesome narrative in that time. But regardless, we have a couple things that we should talk about in the scope of the episode. Basically, we know Sam is, he's Uncle Sam, literally, because he's talking about how his nephews are, a little more grown, and he's literally Uncle Sam, which is funny. And he meets up with his sister, and helping her out with life and stuff like that. We learn about Falcon's family and stuff like that. So lots of cool background details that just build up Sam and develop his character more, which is really awesome because he's an awesome character who deserves a ton of development. He kind of is more focused, after a awesome opening show mission that he does, he actually encounters Batroc the Leaper from Winter Soldier, hilariously enough. And from the comics, he's the bouncy French guy who he's literally called Batroc the Leaper, and he's in a big purple jumpsuit. He's kind of like a Spider-Man villain a lot of the time. But regardless, so he does a fun little mission like that, and so we see more of Sam's development. Then we start catching up with Bucky, who is in some sort of therapy, seemingly with a military therapist, because she was a very aggressive therapist, and and I think she talked about how she had her own experience on the front lines and stuff like that. So it's probably better for Bucky to have someone who kind of knows what he's been through. So, and even if she's a little tough, I remember talking to people she's a bad therapist, or some people were telling me that. It's sure, but there are some people who respond more to a direct approach when it comes to therapy. But, that's up to the individual person and their experiences and their personality and whatever. But regardless, we see that Bucky is kind of, after he he is no longer under mind control. He has no threat of mind control on him anymore, at least that we know of, because Shuri from Wakanda was able to remove the Hydra programming from him. So now we kind of just see Bucky trying to live a normal life, like a very citizen, just basic kind of life. And he's stayed connected with Sam, even though in this episode we know that he's apparently hasn't texted Sam back or whatever. But we also learn that he has this list of people who you would think, oh, these are targets or whatever. But no, he's not the Winter Soldier anymore. He is reformed. He is better. And he's the list of people he has is a list of people he's trying to either reconcile or make amends with. Basically having to do with things that he did during his Winter Soldier days. And I believe some of that includes tracking down or potentially getting back at the people who used him as the Winter Soldier for nefarious, very malicious purposes. And I believe, from what I remember from the episode, it is one person who, it's like a government official of sorts who was abusing her power, like, really badly, potentially even threatening, like, assassination. And so he confronts her and is able to record a conversation to get her arrested or something like that. But regardless, he also has a list of people he's trying to make amends with. So we see throughout the episode that he is friends with this older man. But it turns out that the reason he is associating with him and talking with this, being friends with this old man, is because while he was the Winter Soldier, he killed his son. And the father never knew what happened to his son. Like, it was never confirmed what happened. He just knew he was dead. So, excuse me. And so he's trying to make amends for that. So basically it's like we're learning where the characters are at. We're learning, where they're at in life, where they're how they've developed since Endgame and stuff. So it's a little slow. It's not exactly extremely action-packed to start, but we got 5 episodes to go. We got Sharon Carter to come, and we got more awesome characters, which I'm going to mention in a minute, and probably like right now. So after we kind of really get into these, or as we're getting back into these characters and learning about their current whereabouts and status, we start learning a little bit more about what our antagonists or villains, whatever, are going to be in this show. And one of the first thing we encounter is a group that is being investigated by Torres, the agent connected with Sam, called the Flag Smashers, who seem to be some sort of, I guess, they kind of seem like terroristic group, but they seem very, like, grassroots and very, like just basically, like, they're causing violence for the sake of causing violence. I can't remember. I'd have to go and watch the episode again, because it's been a couple days since I watched it, obviously. But, he tried to blend in with them, try to get information on them, and it seems their leader has some sort of enhanced abilities of, like, super strength of some sort. They wear the mask, which is really cool, and so they're called the Flag Smashers, which, if you know comics, there is a character known as Flag Smasher, and I believe, from what I've heard about this show, there is a gender-swapped version of Flag Smasher in this show, who is, I'm trying to remember what exactly their name was, like Morgenthau or something. It's like, let me look it up real quick. Yeah, so Carl Morgenthau, and in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's a female version, Carly Morgenthau, which, but we haven't seen her face. We don't know much about her yet. We basically know nothing, but that's just what we know from the show itself and from what we know from comic history. So they're definitely delving into that lore. And so we're starting to get that. They aren't connected much to Falcon and Winter Soldier yet. Falcon and Winter Soldier didn't even meet in this episode. They didn't even talk to each other. Besides the fact that the therapist mentioned that he hasn't texted Sam back. Bucky hasn't texted Sam back. So it's interesting to see the show progress, and it'll be interesting to see how it all turns out. But one of the big surprises, spoiler again, ahead, at the very end of the episode, which most of us already knew from trailers and stuff like that, and just casting announcements, is that at the very end of the episode, the U.S. government apparently makes an announcement that they have created or established or whatever a new Captain America who now takes up the shield. And, of course, Falcon finding this out is devastated. Because it's like, I literally just gave it to you guys to put into a museum, to retire the shield, that I didn't feel like I was worthy of it, and that I think it shouldn't be used. It should not be, it should be retired to history. But we all know the U.S. government, they don't like to listen, and we're like, we're the best country ever. We need a new Captain America who is, going to be our Captain America and isn't Steve Rogers, who's like, he's Captain America, but we don't like that. Like, people love Captain America, Steve Rogers, but we all know America. And if you know any sort of state of politics in this country, we know that nationalism is a problem. And so they definitely created this new Captain America as kind of like the ego boost. The very modern, modern war bonds kind of way of describing him. So, like what I'm saying is the war bond ads that Steve Rogers did back in the day during World War II. So, basically, and so what we do know, we obviously know that this is John Walker from the comics, who in the comics goes by the name U.S. Agent. He is basically, he's a pretty nefarious villain. He's not the greatest person. He's kind of a bit of an ass. He's kind of like, supposed to be like, I think he's kind of like an anti-hero, but regardless, he is a really cool character and has a lot to do with Captain America. And, so, like, basically, they're bringing him in as a replacement for Captain America. So we're going to see how that turns out. We're going to see maybe he becomes more of a hero. He actually is a genuine hero. But we all know that Sam is supposed to be Captain America. So who is this guy and why is he encroaching on Sam's territory? So, honestly, that's really basically it when it comes to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, there were a lot of awesome details. We learned more about Sam. We learned more about Bucky. We learned about the future. This takes place around 6 months after Endgame. We're still getting details of who was snapped and who wasn't, and all sorts of fun little in-universe details. Even learning more about what life as an Avenger is like. Do they get paid? It seems not. Apparently they didn't get paid, but who knows? Who knows how they kept a living, but I have no freaking idea. Regardless. Now, so that was Falcon and Winter Soldier. I love it so far. I think it's great, and I think it's really going to kick off, like, next episode, and we're going to get some awesome action scenes. We're going to get to see Baron Zemo. We're going to see Sharon Carter. Like, it's going to be really cool to see how that turns out, because there are rumors that Baron Zemo being here is going to lead into spin-off stuff regarding the Thunderbolts, which would be interesting. But yeah, so, we're going to get started on the next topic, which will be the Snyder Cut Justice League, after I take a sip of water here. And really quick, we are going to add This here, that's too big. I should fix that. There we go. And so, we have Zack Snyder's Justice League to now discuss. I have watched it. I've watched it completely in full. I'm sorry, this is bouncing around like crazy. And it was a lot. Let's just say it was a lot, but we're going to get into it. So, sorry. Cool. So now, we have basically a, like, one of the weirdest things to happen in film history, like, in, just in superhero movie history. Like, this whole situation with the Snyder Cut was honestly one of the strangest, like, progression of events that we have seen. DC was always a mess, but, like, the Snyder Cut was, like, the epitome of that. Like, it was, it was basically, like, like, so, a little history, if you're not aware, if you've forgotten, or if you're curious or whatever. So the reason the Snyder Cut was ever a thing was because, obviously, Zack Snyder made the first two movies in the DC Cinematic Universe, which were Man of Steel, the Superman movie, and Batman vs. Superman. And then was also kind of like an executive producer, in a way, a la Kevin Feige of Marvel, within DC's movie slate. He wasn't directly involved with Suicide Squad, but he was still partially involved. And I believe he may have actually filmed the one Flash scene in Suicide Squad. But regardless, so regardless, once Justice League was finally coming along, like, we had Wonder Woman and then Justice League. So Justice League was being filmed, and Zack Snyder had gotten through a pretty hefty chunk of the filming. I think it was something around, like, maybe 80 or 90% of the film was done, of his film was done. And then, very, very unfortunately, tragedy struck in Snyder's family, the passing of his daughter, and he had to leave the project because of it. So Warner Brothers decided, all right, we need to get this movie finished. We need to get this movie out. So they brought on Joss Whedon, obviously known for the Avengers movies, and to finish up the movie and, get it out. However, despite that, it also included the fact that they put in a whole bunch more money into the movie to reshoot a lot of it. Because from what we can kind of tell, there was a lot of tension between Warner Brothers and Zack Snyder. And we all know Warner Brothers is extremely, extremely nosy to their projects. That is why a lot of these DC movies just haven't been good, or just not as good as they could be, because Warner Brother executives just keep interfering with the creative process and not letting the story play out as the creators want to. So basically, like, so Joss Whedon comes in. They put up a whole bunch of more. I can't speak. I'm sorry. They put a whole bunch of money into the project. Joss Whedon then does extensive reshoots, essentially makes the movie his own, and changes it so that the tone starts to match more of the MCU. Because they thought, okay, the MCU is mastering the whole action comedy balance and, the tone and uplifting and optimism and stuff like that. And meanwhile, the DC universe was, dark. It's very, dark physically or visually and story-wise. Very brooding, very just very I don't know, it's hard to describe. I can't think of the right terms for it, but if you've seen the movies, you know what I'm talking about. And it's basically like so basically Joss Whedon comes in, makes the movie his own, makes it more, haha, funny little jokes in the middle of action scenes, and random, just extra things added on, and all this stuff. And regardless of your thoughts of Joss Whedon himself, the movie turned out a lot different than Zack Snyder's vision. And when the movie eventually came out, it was a real drag. It wasn't good. I saw it in theaters. They didn't release it in IMAX. They literally didn't even release Justice League in IMAX. That's how you know, like, okay, what the heck? What's going on here, guys? Come on. And so the movie was just bad. It wasn't interesting. Steppenwolf was a bland villain. Very and he looked horrible. Like, he looked like a PS2 era cutscene animated villain. Like, he just looked really bad, and it just overall wasn't a great movie because they made jokes out of serious scenes, and it just, and the characters weren't developed enough, and it was just, it was a lot of very bad decisions story-wise. So not long after that movie came out, people were like, all right, this movie wasn't great. So, and then we start hearing rumors that, so we start hearing rumors of what Zack Snyder's vision for this movie was going to be, right? And over the course of 3 years, we had a growing movement of #release the Snyder Cut. And I honestly didn't think much of it because that's never happened. Or if it has, someone can obviously quote me for it, but that stuff doesn't happen in the film industry. Like, it rarely, if ever, happens. And so I figured it wasn't going to. Finally, after years and years and years of people being like, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, release the Snyder Cut, someone convinced the executives enough that they could let Zack do his full Justice League vision, R-rated, and put it on HBO Max. So it happened, and he ended up shooting a little bit more, I think. I don't remember everything that he did. I don't know if we ever got the full scale of everything he did, but he basically finished what he started. There were a lot of scenes that were left in the Whedon cut that were filmed by Zack Snyder, but when it came to the Snyder Cut, there was a whole crap ton of new footage. And seriously, we know this because the theatrical cut was 2 hours long, and and Zack Snyder's Justice League is 4 hours. So we know that there was a lot of stuff that was cut out, that was missing, etc. But I'm trying to keep my thought process here. So basically, Zack makes his full vision, and it was better. I'm gonna say right now that it was better than 2017. Is that a high bar to go off of? Not really, but it was a better movie. It did have a lot of better moments in it. The action was a lot more. It felt better. The action felt better. The story was way better developed. Cyborg, Flash, and Aquaman were way more developed than they were in the movie, in the theatrical release. We get hints at Darkseid, Desaad, a little cameo of Granny Goodness, a like, and how we learned that Darkseid was actually the one to attack Earth instead of Steppenwolf, and we learn more about Darkseid's quest for the anti-life equation. We learn more about basically how this Zack Snyder setting up this universe that he was trying to build. And this movie, with so much content in it, basically was explaining what the next couple of movies were going to be like. Hinting at a Justice League 2, maybe even 3, and then and potentially some other solo movies. We don't know what could have been. All we know is what we have now. And DC is still in a big mess. It's still a huge, combination of unrelated projects that just are not cohesive. And so it's like, if they want to be like Marvel, they either want to be like Marvel or they don't. And if you don't have a plan, everyone's going to be frustrated with you, because it means that you're not building to anything. You're making the movies purely for financial sake. You're not making them because you love the characters, and you're not making them because you want them to be on the big screen and show the fans what they've been wanting for years and years and years, especially now that we see what people can do when it comes to Marvel. We had Endgame, one of literally the biggest movies of all time. And we have Justice League, a equally top tier group of characters from the history of comics, who deserve as much of a spotlight as the Avengers do. I may prefer Marvel, but but that doesn't change the fact that DC has been there right alongside Marvel, doing their own thing for decades, and with a just as big fan base and people who love these characters to death. And if you are just gonna not provide good stories and good development and action for these characters, you're just gonna make people frustrated. So it was interesting to see the Snyder Cut come out, because he was doing his own vision of it, regardless of whether you agreed with the decisions he made with these characters and their philosophies, like Batman killing, or Superman not being this always super optimistic guy, but kind of brooding a little bit himself. If you, maybe even if you didn't agree with those character decisions, it was his vision. And it was his way of bringing the DC universe to the fans. And there are a lot of people that like his style. There are a lot of people that hate his style too, but it's definitely an acquired taste. But there are a lot of things that Zack Snyder does right. There are a lot of things he does wrong, but there are a lot of things he does right. So if Warner Brothers had kind of just let him do what he needed to do, maybe we wouldn't be where we are with the other DC movies nowadays. But, of course, we can't actually know that, because we'll never know, because Zack had to lead the project. So it's like, we really just need to understand that this is a once in a lifetime kind of movie thing. And I think it was worth watching, even if I was still frustrated. So I haven't even gotten to the details, a lot of the details of this movie. So first of all, here are some of my thoughts and opinions about the movie. Way too long. I get it. It took 4 hours for you to tell this massive story, but it didn't. It's as much as 4 hours, 4 hours is a lot. It's a lot to ask of people. And it's you want to make sure that the 4 hours is worth it. whether or not it's worth it to you depends on your opinion on DC and your opinion on these movies and everything like that. So it's hard to really determine if it's worth it overall, and I don't want to make that opinion. I don't want to say, oh, it's not worth it watching, or hell, if it is worth watching, because I want that to be up to you. I figure you should watch it to make your own opinion, to make your own decision on it. But personally, I think it was way too long. There's a reason that we have editors. There's a reason that we have these people who see the director's vision and be like, hey, obviously we love this, but this scene feels a little out of place, or this scene takes people out of the action. This scene, it doesn't flow. It doesn't flow as well as it could. And I honestly think that this movie would have had the exact same, like, I guess, it would have had the exact same impact. It would have had none of the story beats would have changed. It would have felt exactly the same if it was only 3.5 hours, because there were a lot of things in that movie that they could cut. When you see a comedy movie, you see the best cut of that movie possible to make it as funny as possible. And when you watch extended cuts of comedy movies, you start to see why they cut the scenes that they did. There are movies where the extended version is hilarious and, like, and it should have been included in the theatrical release. The other guys. But then there's movies like 40-Year-Old Virgin, where, like, scenes will go on for too long and the joke dies, so no one in the audience is laughing anymore. And it's just like, you should have cut it right where the laugh was good, everyone liked it, they recovered from it, next scene. And so that's why in movies like this, it's better to have, it's better to cut out the fat, it's better to keep things moving. And, like, one of the biggest points I have in it for this topic is the very beginning of the movie. Batman meets Aquaman, and then there are these people who are around Aquaman, right? Aquaman goes into the water, and then these villagers or whatever just start singing. They're singing, like, this Icelandic singing. And it's like, okay, all right, that's cool. It's an interesting, I guess, world development, I guess. But then it went on. It went on for 2 minutes longer than it should have. Like, it was like, all right, okay, I get it. It's a crazy scene. Like, it's like, come on, like, let's get a move on. Like, this movie's called Justice League. I want to learn about the plot. I want to learn about the characters. I want to learn about the mother boxes. I want to learn everything. Like, let's move on. Like, let's get to the story. And when you're spending, like, 3 minutes on just a bunch of random villagers singing in Icelandic, I mean, sure, that it's beautiful and it's fine, but what's the point? What is this going to bring to the movie? What would cutting the 2 extra minutes of them singing out, like, take away from the movie if you were to cut it? Like, what would? It wouldn't take away anything. It would not change the fact that we had a better story when it came to, the Justice League coming together and fighting Steppenwolf and repelling Darkseid. So, like, so basically it's just like, it's like, just why, right? So, yeah, I just think it could have been a little shorter, and it could have done a lot better in regards to how they just, time-wise, and not make everyone who wants to watch this thing sit through 4 hours. This movie could never be released theatrically. If it is, I'm going to be shocked, because it's 4 hours. I watched Endgame in theaters 3 times. I went to the theaters 3 times to see Endgame. That movie's 3 hours long. No matter how long I waited to start sipping on my drink, I had to pee like a madman afterwards. Because 3 hours is a while. Like, it's a long time. So if you're going to make people sit, like, this is made to be paused and made to be, and since the original way they were thinking on doing it was making it like a 4 to 5 or 6 episode miniseries or whatever on HBO Plus, but I think it's better that they just release the whole thing instead of making people wait. But yeah, so it was just really, really long, and I think that it could have been a little bit better in that regard. Anyway, let's go on to some of the more specific details regarding the plot. Story was better. Developed the characters better. Aquaman was developed better. They learned more about how he got the trident that he had in that movie, which may actually contradict the story of the Aquaman movie, but it's, it's unknown. It seems like that's what they're implying. Flash got better development. And his powers were ridiculous. Like, I mean, a lot of it wasn't very explained. It was just like, oh yeah, this thing, it's called the Speed Force, and like, that's it. And then all of a sudden later in the movie, he's like reversing time. And it's like, okay, I wish we had a Flash movie before this to really develop that, but that's fine. Like, but, and then like Cyborg got a ton more development. He was a much better made character. And like, his journey throughout the movie is much better. But yeah, really quick, let me just respond to a comment. Editing in the preaching world is called killing your darlings, because you have these things you love and are important to you, but overall these darlings are not important to the overall product. Okay, yeah, that's a very good way of summarizing it. It's a very good way of describing it. Like, things are great, little details are awesome, but if it's taking away from your point, then people are gonna zone out. So, and just like me with my podcast, where I zone out of topics a lot and try to lose focus and figure out and forgot what I'm talking about. Anyway, so, the final battle was a lot better. The development of the characters was a lot better. Like, everything looked a little bit better. There was a lot of stuff they took out of the Whedon cut, obviously. They took basically everything of the Whedon cut out besides the obviously filmed, the scenes that were obviously still Snyder's cut. It was, but they definitely added a lot. There was a lot of really cool moments in it. I will always respect there are a lot of really cool moments in it. Like, I'll respect the Steppenwolf attacking the Amazons. It's like, it's like they're so he's attacking the Amazons who are trying to defend the Mother Box from him, and he does it like, it's like, it's like he Steppenwolf says something like, or I can like sense your fear, or like, I'm sure you're all afraid or whatever. And Hippolyta is like, Amazon, show them your fear. And they're like, we have no fear. Like, that is a badass moment. That was awesome. That was really well done and really appreciated. But, and then there's like, some of the action scenes, like the Wonder Woman, like terrorist attack that she stopped, I guess. Like, that was a little bit longer, and obviously it showed a little bit more of Wonder Woman's badassery. We see Flash save Iris West, but even though she never appears in the movie again, like, it's kind of weird. And we get more development with Cyborg and the relationship between him and his father. And spoiler, but like, he doesn't die in the Whedon cut. He dies in the Snyder cut, which is like in an event of self-sacrifice, where he is trying, like, which is pretty interesting. Like, it was really interesting how they developed that. And so I think that sorry, give me a second. Oh, there we go. Nose was itchy. So we have we got a lot of awesome development with the characters. Does that change the fact that I still think that there were a lot of unnecessary details? No. We got a lot of characters. We got a lot of new things. We got a lot of events that kind of just, get, passed off a little bit. Also, let's talk about Martian Manhunter, all right? John Jones, the guy from Mars, the shapeshifter, the mind reader, like, awesome as hell character, we were spoiled that he was in this movie by Zack Snyder, because Zack Snyder spoiled like 90% of the movie before it came out. And so we knew Martian Manhunter was going to be in it. To what extent, we don't know. I thought maybe he was going to show up in the final battle. He didn't. In fact, the first time we see him in the movie is in the most unexpected place that you could imagine. So there's a conversation that happens I believe in both the Whedon and the Snyder cuts, where Martha Kent, Superman's mom, or Earth Mom, is talking to Lois Lane. And because Lois Lane is kind of like in a bout of depression after Clark's death. So, but then we learn in the Snyder cut that it wasn't actually Martha Kent that came to see Lois. It was like the military person that she had talked to in BVS, like looking for more information about, like, I guess, like Lex and stuff like that. And it turns out that he was Martian Manhunter. We knew this already because of spoilers, but like, apparently he went to Lois Lane disguised as Martha Kent to get her to get back out there and do her job. Like, what is the point of that? Like, it just seems like it wasn't developed enough. It was just like, okay, Martian Manhunter's here. He looks awesome, but what is he doing here? What is his connection to the scene? What led him to do this? He's a mind reader. It's not like he doesn't know things that are happening, but it was just like, why? Like, why is this here of all places? And why is this necessary? How does this connect? What is his motivation? How is, like, and it just, I don't know. Like, so I know he was already connected to Lois Lane, but it's not like it was an extremely strong connection. I mean, like, it just kind of came out of nowhere. And then we don't see him for the rest of the movie. He shows up to Bruce at the very end of the movie, and he's like, hey, good job on putting this team together. I think I can help out. And it's like, and immediately I said to myself, as he said that, I was like, then where were you during the final battle? If you knew that Steppenwolf was invading Earth, trying to get 3 objects that are going to be used to then freaking destroy the entire Earth and make it conquered for Darkseid, why didn't you help? Why didn't you go to the place and help? And it frustrated me. Like, it really frustrated me, because it's like, why include Martian Manhunter if you're not going to use him? Why? Martian Manhunter is literally shape-shifting Superman. Like, it just feels like he was wasted. And anyway, I'm getting really far into this movie, and I want to make sure we don't discuss it too long, so we can discuss the other topics and then wrap up the podcast. So really quick, I want to talk about Steppenwolf, Darkseid, etc. Steppenwolf looked a lot better. His outfit, his costume looked a lot cooler. Or his, armor and stuff, like, it definitely looked a lot cooler, I think. There's, he himself gets developed more. Kind of like, somehow losing favor with Darkseid and trying to conquer the planet for him, and apparently he has to conquer like 50,000 worlds to gain favor with Darkseid again, or something like that. So he's kind of like, oh god, I need to do this. But then he's also like, shoot, I found the anti-life equation. It's here on Earth. And Darkseid's like, anti-life equation? And it's like, maybe if you do this, I'll love you again, or whatever. Because I think Steppenwolf is technically Darkseid's uncle in the comics. So, I don't know. But they never explicitly said that in the movie. So, it might be a little different. Regardless, Steppenwolf was better. He was still fairly bland, but he was better. Desaad was interesting. He very, Empire Strikes Back vibes. And then Darkseid was, he looked badass. He didn't have a big role in the movie. Like, they showed the scene where he was beating the shit out of Amazons, Atlanteans, and humans, like, all at once when he invaded Earth way, 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 way back in the past. But that was all you saw of him until, like, the final battle where, he's talking about the anti-life equation and, invading Earth because Steppenwolf failed. So it would be interesting. So, like, we get all these hints, like, all right, Darkseid's going to be the big bad. He's going to be the Thanos villain. And he's going to invade Earth. And we also get hints to the future, what Zack Snyder was planning, which involves the Nightmare Universe. And right before I get into that, it was pretty awesome that they kicked Steppenwolf back through the portal after Aquaman stabs him in the back with his trident, throws him through the portal, and as that's happening, Wonder Woman decapitates him, which I thought was pretty funny, and I thought was pretty cool. But it's literally just like a F you, Darkseid. But, yeah, so that was pretty cool. Not to mention, there was the scene when Superman finally arrives on the scene during the final battle, and Steppenwolf is about to hit Cyborg with his axe to stop him from separating the mother boxes. and Superman gets in front of him, axe hits his shoulder, and he's just like, not impressed. It's like, that was badass. That was badass. That was a great scene, and much better than his introduction in the Whedon cut, where he's like, well, I like truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice. It's like, that was cheesy as hell, Whedon. Come on, man. Like, but yeah, it was really cool. So then, finally, at the very end of the movie, we have the epilogue where we learn about this nightmare universe that apparently Bruce Wayne is seeing the future. Apparently, in this universe, Bruce Wayne is just he can see the future. He's precognizant, and that should be a superpower that is being addressed, but I don't know. He just keeps having dreams about the future that eventually come true, so it's really weird. I think right before that, though, we also see the scene. The scene with Lex Luthor on the boat is there, but it's different. In the Whedon cut, the scene with Lex Luthor has him escape Arkham and then summon Deathstroke so that they can potentially form the Legion of Doom, or the Injustice League, whatever that they want to call it. In the Snyder cut, it has nothing to do with that. He simply is calling on Deathstroke to go after Batman. And and he was like, hey, by the way, Batman's identity is Bruce Wayne. And Deathstroke's like, huh. All right, let's do this. And goes after him. So, and that was supposedly what was going to lead into the Batman movie in this universe and stuff like that. And then after that, we start seeing the Nightmare universe, which is, it's the apocalypse. Earth has been essentially destroyed. Superman has been taken over via the anti-life equation by Darkseid. And Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Mira, and a mohawk sporting Deathstroke are wandering the wasteland trying to avoid Superman and potentially find a way to fix everything, supposedly using alternate timelines, and apparently with them is Jared Leto's Joker. Not all tatted up and gangstered up like he is in Suicide Squad, just a more pure Joker. He's got really long hair. And here's the thing I want to say. This is what I expected of Jared Leto Joker. The Suicide Squad version, not very good. But that isn't Jared Leto's fault. Jared Leto's a pretty good actor. So he did what he was given. He did what the writing told him to do. And it wasn't great. In the 10 minutes that we saw Jared Leto's Joker here, we got more development between him and Batman. We got a great acting scene from Jared Leto. Cool background. Really seeing what his Joker could be like, because that's what I said way back when Suicide Squad came out. I was saying that because it was like, all right, Joker wasn't very good in this movie, but we haven't seen him in his relationship with Batman. We saw one scene in Suicide Squad where he was even remotely close to Batman, and they were in the car, and it was when he abandons Harley Quinn. That was it. Like, he didn't even talk to Batman. He didn't have build their relationship and their constant war. So we didn't see anything like that. And you kind of almost can't have Batman without the Joker. So it was very... And so, like, I was like, I want to see more before I form a full opinion. And obviously that never happened until now. It was really cool to see their relationship and see him act it. So I commend Jared Leto for what he did in the small part he had in this very long movie. But yeah. And why he's there in the Nightmare universe? Who the hell knows? He's just there. And then at the end of the Nightmare thing, it's like Superman comes along and probably kills them all, because Superman can easily kill all of them. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot. I mean, fun. I don't know, 4 hours, whatever. It's a lot. I'd say watch the movie for yourself more, even though I've already spoiled basically all of it for you. But it was interesting. So Snyder Cut was a decent amount of stuff, and I definitely think it was better than the 2017 theatrical release. Highly, much better. But it still has the fundamental problems that I had with Zack Snyder's DCEU from the very beginning. I still think killing off Superman was stupid. I still think introducing Doomsday this early was stupid. BVS was just throwing everything at the wall at once. Like, I have a lot of fundamental problems with DC and Warner Brothers and how they're handling their DC universe, but that's all stuff for another day, another podcast, another rant about stuff that I want to talk about. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the acquisition of ZeniMax Media by Microsoft. And basically, this is a big acquisition. Obviously, ZeniMax Media is basically the parent company for Bethesda, and Bethesda is like the main big company in this group of companies that make video games. And so here is the article, and I can try to put this in the description later for people who want to take a look at it. So Microsoft confirms its Bethesda acquisition is complete. Some games are going to be exclusive. So that's big industry news. Like, the fact that potential future Bethesda-based games could be Xbox exclusive, very big implications. Because Elder Scrolls, Fallout, like some of the biggest titles that are known for being, most consoles and PC could potentially be stuck on one system. But then again, Xbox is mostly doing Xbox and PC stuff, so it's almost like exclusivity isn't that big of a thing. Regardless, their Game Pass is extremely successful, and a lot of the games that of this like library that they've now acquired have automatically gone on Game Pass. So I don't know. It's a lot to discuss, but so here is a quote from the article. It's an honor to welcome the 8 incredibly talented development studios: Bethesda Game Studios, ID Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios, and their passionate global communities to the Xbox family. So basically, and they said, and Phil Spencer claimed that Bethesda would continue making games the way it always has, confirms that some games would release on non-Xbox platforms. It's interesting because I'm playing Doom. Doom is made by id, I think. Is it id? It is id, right? I'm not being dumb. I mean, yeah, it's made by like parent Bethesda, but it's primarily made by ID. Did I say id? Is it ID? I'm stupid. Whatever. And yeah, and then like there's the other companies in here are responsible for some other really popular games. Like Arcane is responsible for the Dishonored games and for Prey, I believe, as well as the upcoming PS5 exclusive Deathloop, which I'm very excited about. Machine Games has made the more recent Wolfenstein games. I'm trying to remember all the games like that. Like, let's see here real quick. I want to... like, obviously, there's Halo that's going to be involved. There's Minecraft. There's going to be, like, lots of different properties that are now going to be very tightly under the Microsoft banner, which is going to be interesting to see how that all progresses in the industry. So I want to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know in the comments, because I think it'll be interesting to see how this whole deal progresses, because exclusivity deals have never been my favorite. I understand their reasoning. I understand why exclusivity deals need to be a thing. But it's like, I always just believe in gaming as a whole. I don't believe in sides. I don't subscribe to the console wars. I don't complain about Fortnite and then also play Apex Legends. I don't care. If people are happy playing the games that they're playing, then the game is successful. Then the gaming industry is successful. People are happy doing what they enjoy, and that is my view on it. I grew up as mostly an Xbox fan. I had a PS2 when I was a kid. I had a GameCube when I was a kid. I've had basically almost every... I think the GameCube was the first major Nintendo console that I had. I had Game Boys, I had DS, I had a Nintendo Wii. I never got a Wii U because of, everyone in the gaming industry knows the whole tragedy of the Wii U. But, and then but I had a PS2, but I never got a PS3, never got a PS4, and mostly stuck with Xbox. And then, technically, the original Xbox that I had in my house was my sister's. And then once the 360 came along, it basically was mine. And then I got the 360 Slim, and then we got the Xbox One. And so that was me growing up, mostly. Then, only a couple years ago, I bought a PS4 specifically so I could play the Spider-Man game, because it was exclusive to PlayStation. And I don't regret that decision at all, because the game was amazing. And now, because of that, I've played a ton of awesome exclusives on the PlayStation 4 because of it. So... there's God of War, there's Horizon Zero Dawn, There's Detroit Become Human. I've got a couple games over here, probably like now we have Miles Morales Spider-Man. Basically, lots of really awesome exclusive PlayStation games, and so I understand the point of exclusivity. Exclusivity deals are made so that people buy the consoles themselves, that people buy, they're like, oh, I'm going to buy the PlayStation over the Xbox, or I'm going to buy the Xbox instead of the PlayStation, because people only have so much money. Like, a lot of people are going to buy both. If they have the money, you have the ability to buy both, but that's not always the case. So if you don't, and you only have the option for one, you're going to pick the one that interests you the most because it has the games you want to play, and and the stuff that interests you more. So I'm very interested to see how Microsoft's acquisition of Bethesda and all its related studios is going to affect the industry, and what games are going to be exclusive, what games aren't. I think it'll be really interesting. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. And finally, the last detail that I wanted to discuss today is the sorry, still clearing my throat a little bit. The last detail I wanted to discuss: Avatar Studios. Now this is a big one. This is a big one for me, because I grew up loving Avatar: The Last Airbender. And they never made a live-action movie for it. It doesn't exist. I don't know what you're talking about. Some people are telling me that there's supposedly a live-action Avatar movie that came out. I have no idea what you're talking about. It doesn't exist. It really doesn't. So, and then there were rumors that there was the live action Netflix series that was going to happen. Let me make this a little smaller, actually, and and that's apparently been in production for a long time, but we haven't gotten much news on it. Besides the fact we hadn't gotten much news on it for a while, until I think we found out sometime last year that the Netflix show was having the original creators of the show involved so that the show would be done better, because the movie did not. And then apparently the original creators of the show left the Netflix show due to creative differences. So how that's going to turn out, probably no one's going to watch it. But then a couple weeks ago, we get the surprise announcement of Avatar Studios, which is apparently going to be a group of shows and movies all about the Avatar universe, expanding the stories, doing new ones, and the fact that we're getting this is amazing, because after Last Airbender, they did Legend of Korra, and Legend of Korra wasn't always as well received as Last Airbender. It did have its fans, it just wasn't as well received, but the quality of the show dipped because Nickelodeon didn't give the show the time of day. They didn't really give it a chance to thrive. They took it off of live TV. And so it made it harder for people to watch it. But now we're going to be getting more updates regarding it. We're going to get more story continuations. And it's like, and apparently even some theatrical releases. So the first project, according to this article, the first project is an animated theatrical film that is set to start production later this year. It's like, what? No one was expecting this, but everyone liked that. Let me look at this article real quick. It's like, basically, there was like, how a cause for concern is whether Avatar Studios will play into the current reboot craze that has been shaping new releases. But it has, like, the original creators are going to be involved. There's going to be apparently more development of potentially continuing the Last Airbender lore. Because obviously there is a 70-year gap between when, between Legend of Korra and The Last Airbender. So there's a lot of story they could tell there. They could do more Korra stories. They could do background they could do the villain characters and side characters of Korra and Last Airbender. There's a lot that they could do, and I'm very, very excited to see how that turns up. So please tell me your thoughts in the comments about that as well. If you haven't watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, what are you doing? Go watch that show right now, young man or woman. Because it is probably one of the best cartoons you'll ever watch. And it's so full of heart, it's so delightful, it's so wonderful, and it deserves the amount of attention that it got originally, and it deserves even more. So I'm really glad, and I'm really happy to see how this is all going to progress, and I'm really excited. So, but yeah, so that is it for the podcast today. I want to thank you guys for watching, whether or not you're watching right now or in the future. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys watching and embracing this podcast format with me. I'm really enjoying doing it. I didn't do it last week just because I was there wasn't a ton going on. I wasn't able to fully, and I had a little bit of a busy schedule, so it was a little hard to get it done. But I'm trying to do it weekly, if not maybe every other week. We'll see. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You can comment below and talk to me about some of the topics that we discussed today. If you want to watch this live when it goes up, or just watch me stream anything else that I'm playing right now, please go to twitch.tv/downloadableconnor, and where I'm a variety streamer and I play all sorts of games, and I think I'm a pretty cool dude. I'm trying, so at least I try to be. So thank you so much, guys. I will see you guys next time.